I'm Paul Cashmere. This is the Noise 11 Interviews from Home series. And today we hear the story of Blues with Friends, the new Dion album with rock and roll legend Dion.
Thanks for the time. Yeah, right? It's good to be here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me start firing off a few questions at you because I know you will be stretched for time today.
Could you hear
Dion,
me?
it is an absolute pleasure to be able to talk to you with such a marvelous project, such a perfect piece of music art that you put together with this new album.
Paul, I couldn't plan it if I tried. I had these 14 songs that I had, put together over the last maybe 4 years because I was working on a play called The Wanderer that Charles Messina wrote. It was just a lot of fun to be in a room with 50 talented people. And I had 2 months off and I thought, let me record the songs. I like to get them out physically. So I went into a little studio down here where I live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I cut them like in 3 days. The engineer said, just sing them like you sing them at home. I took out my acoustic and I knocked them right out. I started doing some overdubs on them. We got the tracks, and Joe Bonamassa come over my house. His manager lives 5 houses away. So he comes over and he hears one of the tracks, says, I'd like to play on that. I said, hey, be my guest, So he plays on this song, Blues Coming On. And Paul, I kid you not, I know how to write a song. I know how to record a record. I know how to make a great record. But he showed me how limited I am in my concept of, it took it to another level. It just was a joy to hear what he played and playing with him. He's such an ensemble player. Any little movement of your voice or accentuate a word or a moan, he's there to enhance it or to punctuate it, or I don't know how that man hears, but and then I thought, man, I should just ask these great artists, these mesmerizing, masterful, monster, distinctive artists, because they're so distinctive. You can't compare Brian Setzer from Stray Cats with Jeff Beck or, Bruce Springsteen. It's just, they're so different. And I thought, I think he was the catalyst that sparked the vision for it. So I started asking my friends to play on it, and it was like a trip. No stress, nothing. It was thrilling for me to work with these, and I started out, like I said, Paul, I thought really, great songs, memorable songs, good stories, worth telling. So I started out with the best batch of songs I ever had. And it just went from there. I just enjoyed the whole process. It was just a lot of fun for me.
Wow. Because people just don't pick up the phone and ring Paul Simon or pick up the phone and ring Van Morrison or Bruce Springsteen. But you did. So not only is it friendship, it also shows a lot of respect that they have for you.
Yeah, yes, they did. It did, there's a lot of, is a relationship there, but I got to tell you, I'll tell you a funny story. My wife is, Van Morrison's her favorite singer.
Wow.
So you get in the car with my wife and she has 12 Van Morrison CDs. And I always said, Susan, listen, we're soul brothers, believe me. So I had this song, I Got Nothing. I said, I think I'm going to ask Van to play horn on it. He said, no, I'd rather sing with you. So, because he's getting real good on the horn, on the sax. So I went in and cut this thing with him. Now, let me tell you, you haven't lived until you're in the studio with Van Morrison singing. It's just, it's into the mystic. I mean, it's an experience, one-time life experience. You never. Anyway, I go in and I cut this thing. It's called "I Got Nothing," and when you got Van Morrison singing with you, nothing is more than enough. So now I play it for my wife, and Paul, I'm in with my wife. Next 30 years, I'm in. There's nothing you could say bad about me. Nothing.
If that was your only motivation, then you've done well.
I finally impressed her after 57 years.
Tell me about your friendship with Paul Simon, because he is on this record, but I think your first recorded collaboration dates back to the 80s, doesn't it? And he was definitely around in the 90s with you as well.
Well, you know, I've known Paul a long time, but what happened, this is kind of a lengthy story, but I'll tell you. You know, I wrote this, I traveled with Sam Cooke for about 6 weeks, you know, and, you know, he had a tragic ending, but he was a very refined, very intelligent guy. He was a preacher's kid. And, you know, when I traveled with him, I saw him in a lot of ugly situations. There was racism in New York, but it wasn't the same because I was recording with all the Apollo musicians up at Columbia. You know, I had Stix Evans on drums and Panama Francis and, you know, all the guys working with, you know, they encouraging me and playing with me. So when I was traveling with Sam, I saw him in a lot of ugly situations. People, you know, the racism in the South at the time, I'm going back to the early 60s, you know, it was brutal. And I was rough around the edges. I'd say, Sam, why don't you throw that guy a right hook, knock him out, you know? You know, he'd say something like that to you, you know, because they were calling names or so. And he said, Dion, listen, that's a peculiar way to become a man. You know, he said, if race matters to you, you're a racist. To us, it doesn't matter. It's like eye color or shoe color. So, you know, he taught me how to like reach for a higher ground, you know. I got to know him. I got to observe him in a lot of situations over the 6 weeks, and I never seen him get ruffled. He never reacted badly. And he would talk to me, and he, you know, he wasn't afraid to talk about God or, you know, his faith, and he understood me. It was a lot of like friendship, brotherhood, understanding. And I tell you, one day it dawned on me just watching him, Paul. I said, now I know why he's the way he is. He's the brightest guy in the room. And it was very appealing to me. I wanted to, you know, up my game and learn at the time, you know. So, you know, when he died, some years later, I wrote a song, I put it in the drawer, never looked at it. Last year, I saw the movie Green Book, and I called Paul Simon. I said, Paul, I got a song. I said, it's been in the back of the drawer for years. I never recorded it. It's very personal. So we had lunch, and I played him, you know, the song, and I told Paul about it. I said, it's not so much about racism, Paul. It's about brotherhood and love and understanding and friendship. You know, that's the way that's the way Sam wanted to change the world. I know he did it through his art and his writing and his music, but most of all through friendship. Paul got it right away. We go back to Paul and I have been friends since the 60s. We grew up to the same doo-wop music on the streets, you know? So he got it right away. And he came into the studio and turned it into something sublime, really.
Wow. Because I take it when you grew up and where you grew up was a very tough territory and a very tough time. I guess we saw a glimpse of that story in the musical and the movie Jersey Boys, the Frankie Valli story. Did you share a similar sort of background at that time?
Oh, they were lightweights compared to where I grew up. I grew up across the street from George's Bar and Grill and Tally's Pool Room and all the guys were around. I wear this chain around my neck. It says, look at me, all those kind of guys. So that's where the Wanderer comes from. And that's where I wrote a song called King of the New York Streets. And I wrote a song called Gangster of Love. They're all the same. And on the new album, there's one called I Got the Cure. The blues, you could express anything in the blues, your joys, your dreams, your hopes. But when you're not singing the blues, you're bragging, mannish boy, like the Hoochie Coochie Man, the Wanderer. So that theme for me just continues to appear every album I do. And on the latest one, it's I Got the Cure, and I did it with Sonny Landreth, but Frankie Valli and here's another guy. We've been friends for years, and we sometimes we have a lot of laughs together when we get together. Yeah.
I guess Bruce Springsteen's a hometown boy as well, or particularly around the area. It's amazing seeing somebody of the caliber of Bruce Springsteen contribute to this record, and it adds such a unique flavour to the album, doesn't it?
I was trying to get the blues. The blues it's a community. We listen together, we play together, we enjoy together. Sometimes we travel together. Sleeping on the bus, whatever it is. But I always say you're never alone with the blues. It's a tradition. It's alive. It's a passing on, a handing down, and. You'd be surprised. Guys like Bruce Springsteen are steeped in it. We all are. I mean, that's the roots. I had this one gospel tune that I thought was kind of real interesting. I had recorded it a while back, and I thought, it's not where I want it to be. It wasn't living where I wanted it to be. So I dusted it off, and I thought, Patti Scialfa, she is the Jersey soul girl. She's going to do some harmony with me. I'm going to play. I think she'd like to do it. So I sent the song to Patti, Bruce's wife, and she loved it. She said, Dion, I hear things on this. I'd love to do something. And Paul, I didn't tell any of these artists because they're so distinctive in their own right and brilliant, and they just have vision of their own, so when they hear a song that I did, they started to just infuse it what they were hearing, not what I was hearing. So I sent it to Patti. I thought she was going to do a few lines, like maybe a few harmony lines or echo a word I said, but she ended up stacking maybe 12 vocals under my vocal and just capturing the wind of the Holy Spirit or something. I don't know. It was just mesmerizing, beautifully done. And, Bruce come in the room because he loved the song too. And he has to do a solo, and he did this solo that, again, captured this bigness, this gravitas, that guitar that he come in with. And he captured the universe, and and it's just big. And they made the song something really special. It's like going to the Olympics and wanting to jump 19 feet, and you catch a wind in it. You end up breaking the world record at 23 feet. So it was a real gift to me.
Who is Mike Aquilina, who you've co-written these songs, or most of the songs, with?
Yeah, Mike Aquilina is a great friend of mine and a great writer. He's written about 52 books. He's a patristic writer, he writes about the first 300 years of the church, you know, the early fathers of the church. He specializes in it kind of, but he's just a beautiful guy and a very talented wordsmith. So sometimes I'll get a melody and I get a song and I'll go to Mike and he kind of like helps me finish it off. He's my partner in crime. Yeah.
I guess had we not had these crazy times that we're going through at the moment, the Wanderer the musical that you spoke about briefly earlier on would have debuted by now. What was that going to look like with, I believe, Joey McIntyre from New Kids on the Block was planned to play you?
Yeah, I tell you, you know, Paul, I was never a musical theater guy, but Charles Messina wrote a story of substance. You give me something of substance, you could entertain me all day long. So he had like, you know, there was early street history, rock and roll, action, romance, betrayal, victory over betrayal. I mean, the music is, you know, a lot of the hit records. I've had 12 gold records on my wall. So the music is, you know, where he placed it, the way it moves the story along, and a lot of laughs, and you know, it's just a joy working with a guy like Joey, and it was a lot of fun. If you're ever in New York, they're going to open next year, so if you're ever there, you got my number, or you be my guest. You're going to enjoy it.
Absolutely. I go to New York often, or I did go to New York often. We're not going anywhere often anymore. The story of our lives all around the world. So
it is opening next year.
Fantastic. I think it was 1958 when you first made the Billboard charts. 1958 was also the year I was born. So your career is as old as me. This is the face of your career.
Yeah, well, yeah, I started out, you know, it was crazy because here I am in my parents' apartment. They're paying $36 a month rent, and we got this little TV that my uncle got us. And I see Bo Diddley and Little Richard and Chuck Berry walking across my living room floor when you were born. And within a couple of months, there I am at the Brooklyn Fox working, you know, just doing shows with these guys. It was like a miracle, you know? So I feel like Forrest Gump, you know, it's crazy. All the people I've met and the experiences, I'm very grateful. I'm a grateful man. I am. Yeah.
Because it could have got ugly, couldn't it? I mean, you were young, suddenly there was success. With success would have come money, and with money comes temptation. You were tempted as well in those early days too, weren't you?
You know, I got into drugs at an early age. And, you know, Frankie Lyman, I don't know if you remember Frankie Lyman, but we used to run the streets together and get off together, take drugs together, and, you know, live in the high, you know, we thought we found heaven, we found hell, you know. Who knew? But, you know, drugs don't lead you to a good place. You know, at first, you know, it's fun at the beginning, then it's fun in some problems, then it's nothing but problems. And Frankie Lyman died in February of 1968. And it just frightened me to my senses, you know. And I kid you not, one night I went to this meeting, and this guy told me, it was like a 12-step spiritual kind of program deal. And he said, you better reach out and ask God to help you, because a broken mind can't fix a broken mind. I had all these records, and I didn't know how to stop drinking and drugging, you know. And I got on my knees and I asked for help. I said, God, if you're real, please help me. And when I got up, I was changed. I haven't had a drug or a drink since. That's like 52 years ago, Paul. So I think I'm just grateful. You could see I'm a man of prayer. I bought those, by the way, I bought those when I was like 14, down in the village. I saw them in a store. I bought those hands, those praying hands. So anyway, I think God wants us to be fully alive and work well if we're in union with him. If you start fighting it, it's like, it's a funny thing, because if you're not connected, if you're not centered, however you explain that, you got to fill your life with, Thomas Aquinas says, 4 things: wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. You got to be right, you got to win, you got to be better. And there's all this kind of jockeying to fill yourself up and give your soul some peace of mind and some significance and value and worth. But I don't think it could happen without being connected, And not that those things are bad. Money's not bad, pleasure, power, honor. But once you're connected, he kind of shapes your desire for those things, not me. When I was doing it, I wasn't working out well.
So I guess at that time, 1968, that you're talking about there, I guess one of the most important songs that you ever recorded, which still resonates today, Abraham, Martin and John. Did that come as a result of the experience that you've just described?
You hit it on the head. 3 months after that prayer, Martin Luther King was shot down, and Bobby Kennedy, and it was just so frustrating for me that put that song together, at the end of 1968, and it was different. Something changed in me, and the world was, I know here in the States, it was very restless with the war, and something changed in me, something changed in my music, a new depth, a higher reality, a higher pitch, and a vision to always point to take people on a trip. And when you want to take people on a trip, you want to take them on a good trip. You know what I'm saying? That's always been my deal anyway. Since the first day I walked out in high school and played at the the high school dance, and I've never changed. I still love doing that. Getting a guitar, walking out there with a band and rocking the house, but I got a lot more to say these days, I still feel relevant. Thank God I'm still creative, and life is good, in spite of what we see. I know there's a lot of tragedy and hard times in people's lives, especially right now. I think we need that faith more than ever to help each other and to love each other and to come together instead of this nonsense of, blaming each other and all this stuff. The change has got to start here, start with me.
I know we need to let you get on with your evening and my morning. I just want to ask you one final question before we go about the experience you had in working with Phil Spector. The mid-70s, he'd done the Beatles album, Let It Be, about 5 years earlier. He'd done all of that stuff through the 60s. What was your experience in the studio with him?
Phil Spector is, it was an exciting time, because, hey, I grew up to his records, and I was always waiting for the new one, whatever he was doing, that sound. There was something about the enmeshment of his sound, and it was a little frustrating working with him at the time because he was going through like emotional stuff, and but it was a learning experience. We got some great songs down. Like on that album, I love the song Only You Know, and In and Out of the Shadows, and Make the Woman Love Me. There was some great moments, and I can't tell you, the control room was filled with like Sonny and Cher, Bruce Springsteen, Little Steven, you know, Clarence Clemens. It was wild, you know. But I got to tell you one thing. After I finished this album, like this, the last song, I think I sent it to Billy Gibbons, Bam Bang Boom, because he's like John Lee Hooker on steroids, you know, from ZZ Top. And I finished all the songs. I got them all down, and no more songs to send out. And I'm thinking I should get somebody to write something about this music I've done. You know, usually have liner notes on an album. So I thought, let me send it to Bob Dylan. And we all know Bob Dylan is the greatest writer of the 20th century and beyond. And he's won a Nobel Prize, and he knows how to put words to paper, you know. I sent him the album. He loves it. And he wrote the liner notes to this album. And they're quite insightful. I always learn something every time I read something he writes. It's kind of crazy. But I'm thankful to Bob for and his generosity for, you know, just making it very special.
Did you consider Bob as one of the duets on the record?
I had sent all the songs out. Next time.
There must be a part 2.
Absolutely.
Dion, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for the history that you've given us. You've changed rock and roll and got us where we are today. So thank you for everything that you've done over the decades, and particularly with my career being able to align with yours and play all those great songs on the radio over the years to get to finally talk to you today. So thank you very much for joining us at Noise 11.
Thank you. I'm wondering what those albums are behind you, man. That kind of I'd like to spend the day looking at what's going on behind you.
Oh yeah,
so I think you've got some history in there.
There's plenty of history in there. Yes, we've got Neil Young signed up here in the corner, and so much Australian history in the shelves over here as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. When was the last time you came to Australia?
I was there a few times, you know. Loved going up the Gold Coast there, you know. Sydney, we go all over to Perth, you know. And when they had those sailboats racing, you know, we got there at when that competition was on. And I've been, you know, to Adelaide and Melbourne, and did make went out to the Greater Barrier Reef.
Oh, yeah.
I got stories about that, but we don't have time. But
when the second volume of the album comes out, we talk again, you can tell me the Great Barrier Reef story then.
I tell you, I came out there once, and I came out on a plane with Roy Orbison, and we talked about songwriting all the way, and he taught me a few things about songwriting. That's why I'm getting better. Take care. Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you very much.